quantum leaps show up in the form of challenges.
Mm.
And your work is to answer the call to rise. So whether that's a physical challenge, like an injury or a mystery illness, right? Something that's plaguing the vessel, or whether that's a financial challenge or a relationship challenge, something that's causing you an experience of feeling small, an experience of contraction, when you feel like you're holding your breath, right? Or you're clenching somewhere physically, right? You're not at ease, right? Whatever that is, and it can manifest in so many different ways. It's my belief and been my personal experience that that is the call. That is the call to awaken. That is the call to level up. And that there's something that you're not seeing. And this challenge is here to show you what that is.
Welcome to Alignment Adventures. This is a podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling, aligning, and present life. I'm your host, Lindsay Tanner, and I am so grateful that you are here. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Alignment Adventures. I am so excited and so grateful to be back with you here on my favorite platform to share all the things, and that is Alignment Adventures podcast. I took a little break because we were moving from Phoenix back to our hometowns in the Midwest, in St. Louis and Central Illinois. We're kind of going back and forth to work on the RV, see family, celebrate Arlo's birthday, go to a wedding, all the things. And then in about a month from today, we will be hitting the road full time in our RV. And it has been beautifully chaotic, is how I've been describing it. It's so interesting. I'm just now reflecting back on life this past week. So it's officially been a week since we've left our home in Phoenix. And I felt busier this past week than I did back when I had a job, which is so paradoxical and backwards to what you would think. Like, not having a job would be, you'd have more free time, but I feel like it's been even more chaotic, and I'm just embracing it. I'm trying to embrace the chaos, embrace this season of our life. I am so excited. We have the RV, we're working on it, we're putting our stuff in it. Steven's working on putting solar in it, all the things. If you want to follow along on social media, you can. That's where I'm sharing things in real time, but I'm just so excited to be back here with you, talking to another beautiful soul about what it means to live your most aligning life. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you will see I'm not in my usual location in my office. I am in my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's guest room recording on the floor. So you're going to see a lot of varying backgrounds in the next year. I'm sure every day or every episode, I'll be recording from a new location. But today we are talking to Sheryl Utal. I loved this conversation, and of course it seemed divinely timed, like always. Things are always working out for our favor, and things come to us at the perfect time that we need them. But she has been in this spiritual space for a long time and learned many different modalities. She actually founded Red Diamond Yoga in LA. It was a very prominent yoga practice in LA. And now she is the CEO of Japa Health, which is like kind of taking the holistic approach to health and technology through the self-assessment to help you get to the root cause of some of the physical ailments or mental or spiritual ailments that you may be experiencing. And you can take a free assessment on there, which I just did, and it gives you a vitality score, and it assesses you on 11 different categories. And for each category, I think it's like sleep, nutrition, movement, nature, relationships. It gives you your top suggestions to help you be more vibrant and have more vitality in those areas. So I took it. It was so interesting to see some of the resources it suggested for me. I'm so excited to dive into it more. Some of them I resonated with so much, like speaking your truth more, which is something I've grown in so much, but I obviously have areas to grow, as we all do. We're all in our evolution with our own path, and it's all individualized. And that's what I love about Cheryl's message. She truly shares how each one of our paths is individualized and it's unique to every single one of us. And what's the highest medicine for one person may not be the highest medicine for someone else. And I love how vulnerable and honest she is in her own journey. She says, like, I know all the things to do. I know how to play this game well, but do I do it perfectly? No. And it's not about doing it perfectly. So along with that, we talk about so many aligning topics as always. It always comes back to like remembering our truth, but we talk about turning our pain into purpose, tuning into your heart, how to balance your chakras and tune into your own energy centers. Of course, she shares more about Japa Health, her company that she is starting, the spiritual connection to health issues, which I've been so interested in because I'm just now getting over this couple month long sinus infection issue thing. Like I'm on the other side and I'm like, thank goodness, but it definitely had a spiritual connection. We talk about dealing with judgment, taking personal responsibility, which has been something I've been talking about a lot recently on here. Advice for anyone that's feeling stuck in this journey, dealing with worthiness issues, which she shares open and honestly about her own issues with that topic, which I find so useful and so many people are going to relate to. She talks about how to do inner child work, which we've talked about many times, but also how to work with your future self, which I love. We also discuss where to start when peeling back the layers of dealing with trauma, shifting your beliefs to serve you, the healing power of laughter and fun, which is something I've been trying to tune into more and more. The root issue of a lot of autoimmune issues, which I know so many people suffer from, and her explanation of it is so interesting. Like what's actually happening there in those autoimmune issues, the power of yoga, and how it's like the gateway to such a deeper spiritual practice, which I found for so many people. So if you don't know where to start, sometimes start with yoga. It just feels so good to stretch and tune into your body. And you guys know I'm a big yogi over here as well and diving into those practice. And then I love the alignment activity that she shared at the end, and it connects to the benefits of sunlight, which I find so interesting. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this conversation. I know you guys are going to love this one. Sheryl, thank you so much for coming on Alignment Adventures. I'm incredibly excited for this conversation, and it is divinely aligned because the things that you are an expert on, I have so many questions about. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So we'll start off with the usual question, and you can answer this really in any way, but who is Sheryl Utal?
A wounded healer.
That's a good
Wounded
one.
healer. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of layers to my spirit and to also my ego and my purpose and what it is that I believe my mission here is. And I think it's all wrapped up in healing my own ancestral wounds and in the wounds that I inherited, throughout my 43 years on this earth so far, so that I can be of service to others to help them. Somebody that's close to me once told me that, and I love this so much, so I borrow it from him, that let your what is it? I'm probably going to butcher his words, but it's like, let your story be the first page of somebody else's survival guide. It's something like that, and I'll actually look it up and send you exactly what the words are that he uses, because it's a little bit more potent than the way that I just said it. But yeah, a wounded healer. That's me.
I love that quote because
Mhm.
that's also something I know I ponder all the time. And I know a lot of people are lost in that. Like, what is my purpose? Or like, why am I here? And that is the key right there. Like, what have you been struggling with? Or what have you been suffering from? Or what have you been struggling with that you can help someone else with? So that is a super potent and powerful quote. So thank you for sharing that right off the bat.
Yeah, totally. I think it all comes back to our own pain, because I think the purpose of pain is its cessation, right? The purpose of pain is like, how do we make it stop? And that's where the lessons are. And that's often, I mean, in my perspective, where the purpose is. is in unpacking what that is. What are we here to learn?
Agreed. And that's how I choose to see life too. And I think some people are like, you look too deeply into things. But anytime I'm like sick or something happens or something bad happens, I'm like, what's the lesson? What was the point in this? And that just
Yeah.
helps me. And that doesn't hurt anyone to look at life that way, I think.
No, I think that's what we have to be doing, is examining everything that happens to us, because it happens for us. We actually create it and attract it.
Mm.
And it's the shadow of ourselves that is doing that. And so until you look into it, until you hold up that mirror and you look at it, then it's going to keep happening because it's unconscious. So that's been my life's work.
So good. And I'm so excited to dive into how to do all these things. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and answer the other question that I just love to ask. It really gives people just like another flavor of who you are and what you stand for. But what does living in alignment mean to you?
Turning the authority over to your heart, turning the life authority, the governor of your life, away from your head and into your heart, which to me is the highest authority.
I'm just feeling that in my heart. I see
Mm, yeah, I mean, we are so conditioned to overanalyze, and we were just talking about that, right? To overthink everything. But when we're able to, and we can talk about how to do this, when we're able to suppress the analytical mind, really just to, turn the volume down, right, on that left brain and drop deeply into our heart, that's when we're able to just feel what's true for us. And to me, that's living in alignment. And true alignment is when you have all your chakras aligned, right? When you have like all the energy centers, but the power, the true power is in the gut and the heart, right? And then you're able to bridge that gap. You're able to bridge that gap between the head and the heart with the voice, with the throat, right? So you have the throat chakra, which is very important too. But if you're just all up here all the time,
Yeah.
and you're not connected to those other energy centers, particularly the heart, and then your voice isn't active, then you have the gap and you have a disconnect between the intuitive, empathetic, compassionate center of love and higher knowledge, and then the logic and reasoning. So that's living in alignment for me.
Love that answer. Absolutely love that answer. And you brought up something I've been so intrigued by, but almost get kind of overwhelmed in where to start. And that is chakras. And that's how we say it, right? Chakras. Okay. I was like, I think
Doesn't
I'm
matter
saying
how
it
you
wrong.
say it. It doesn't matter how you say it.
All the
Doesn't
same.
matter how you say any of it.
So
The
true.
intention that you're tapping into those energy centers. Yeah.
Do you feel like those two are the most common ones that people have like issues with, your heart chakra and your what is it, your
I think
solar
it
plexus?
Yeah, I mean, so for your listeners, I've been a yoga practitioner, a student of the practice for almost 20 years, and I've been a teacher for over 10 or something like that. And I founded Red Diamond Yoga, which is a chain of yoga studios in Los Angeles, and I've taught somewhere in excess of 10,000 public classes.
Wow.
And I've had so many private clients, and they range from moms, stay-at-home moms, to celebrities, and all, everything in between. So I've seen a lot of bodies, and I've been in my own body doing the work of accessing the energy centers and the subtle body and the nervous system and the fascia. And I've seen people falling over in class, and I've seen people nailing poses in class. And what I'll say is that I just think it's across the board, and it really depends on what's going on in the collective. It depends on what's going on in your own life. It depends on what you're allowing into your energy field. What are you listening to? What thoughts are you believing that are passing through your own mind? What foods are you eating? Like, if you're not eating seasonally, if you're eating foods that are, out of season, and they're not local, and they're being shipped to you from some faraway place, all of these things, if you're spending too much time on your devices, if you're disconnected from nature, all of these things can create imbalances. So if you're just not speaking up for yourself for whatever reason, it can start to create an imbalance. If you're paying too much attention to false evidence appearing real, right? Fear. If you're paying too much attention to that, then you'll get stuck in your root chakra. So I feel like it would be wrong to say that there's any like one energy center that people struggle with more. I've seen it kind of happen in like collective waves where, like, in particular, when I was running and teaching at Red Diamond, I would see where it just seems like, wow, like this month nobody can balance. And then, there'd be another month where like this month, like everybody's resting a lot. And so there is, I think, a collective trend, especially in urban environments where you're all affected by each other. But the most important thing is to develop practices that help you tune into your own energy centers and to bring awareness to them, understand what they represent, and know how to find yourself again, know how to find your way back to your own equanimity, to your own coherence. And I tell everybody this that I talk to about practice, that I know how to play the game very, very well, but that does not mean that I always play a perfect game. And I think that that's so important to remember, because I've been teaching and practicing, like I said, for a really long time. But as humans, we're so complex and multidimensional that none of us is so evolved that we no longer need to practice, or that we're immune to imbalances, or that we're immune to low vibrational thoughts or any of that. And it happens to me all the time too. So it's just about having those tools in your toolbox to be able to check in and self-regulate and just continue to do the work.
I feel that in my soul, Cheryl, because
Me
sometimes
too.
I get mad. Like I almost get mad that I'm like, okay, I talk about this all the time. I speak to so many beautiful souls like yourself, and it's so simple. And like the things we need to do, I'm like, oh yeah, it gets to be this way. And then it's so easy to forget and get caught up, like you said, in the collective. And then I almost get mad, like how easy it is. So like, what are
Yeah.
some ways that we can like just tune back into ourselves and tune back into our energy centers? Like, is it truly just like the simple habits always?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always important to remember that what works for one person isn't necessarily going to be the highest medicine for somebody else. Which is why I built my startup, Japa Health, because Japa Health is a machine learning, data-driven suggestion engine that gives you personalized suggestions on how to optimize your vitality and what's the best for you. So I built this tech platform to meet people where they are and to offer them guidance on their journey, regardless of what they're going through, whether they have health conditions or not, whether they have symptoms or not. So we have this library that there's a machine that combs through the library based on an assessment that you take, and then it pulls out the practices that are most optimal for you. So anybody that's listening, you can go to japa.health and you can take the assessment, and then the library will tell you what are the practices that might be the best choices for you. But what I believe, if I'm just, on this call, not actually going through the assessment and just giving you my personal experiences, I believe that it's always through the body. So you can't think your way out of that, right? Like what I just said, right? It's getting out of the analytical. And so ways to get into the body, ways to get into the nervous system is through your five senses. And so we engage in life in this material worlds through our five senses, and everything that we receive information wise through our five senses is just all energy in the form of light, sound, vibration. So getting back into that and feeling into the body, moving the body, whether it's through breath, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's getting a massage or some form of self massage, a myofascial practice, anything that helps you feel connected to your vessel and to your five senses, and then to be able to regulate those five senses, to me, is the path to coming back to yourself over and over, over and over, over and over.
What a cool tool, Japa Health. Like I'm literally going to go straight there after this because
It's cool.
I feel like, okay, recently I've been just cannot get over this sickness that I've had. And I like refuse to go to the doctor, refuse to go and get medicine because I'm like, okay, I know this is energetics, Lindsay. There's just something blocked, something, but I feel like I'm just stuck in this spot of like trying to feel better. But what's interesting is that I feel like I do all the quote unquote things you should. Like I meditate, I move, I eat healthy. I mean, I'm sure I could do things better. But I just think you made so many beautiful points there. What is right for one person is not right for another person. And what is right for me today may not be right for me in a year or even tomorrow, So it's just like constantly tuning back in. But I just find that so interesting. And I love looking at health that way of like, I even Googled like, what is the spiritual significance of a sinus infection? I think that's what I have anyways. and it like came up with
I
stuff
love
and I
that
was
you
like,
did that. Yeah.
yeah, it's so interesting. And like the things that came up, I was like, oh, this makes sense. So I'm so excited to check out Japa Health. So you just like
Yes.
take an assessment and it will recommend things for me.
That's right, right. And I'm so glad that you brought up the spiritual significance of things, because that's part of the foundation of our methodology, is that this is a spiritual journey, and that why you have any pain, whether it's physical or emotional or spiritual pain, is so that you can wake up and recognize things about yourself that were previously unconscious, right? Or previously in the dark. Because to me, this is all just a spiritual journey, all of it.
Yes.
All of it. Yeah, all of it. Yeah, so that's Japa Health. But I think getting back into the body, not judging yourself,
Mm.
giving yourself grace. I've been doing that a lot recently, not judging myself is a big
That's a
one.
hard one. Judgment
Mhm.
comes up so much. Yeah, for ourselves, especially, and to others. Do you feel like that's a common one that can cause like health
Yes.
disease is just judgment?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. That's just ego,
mm,
right? That's just ego. And when you're worried that other people will judge you, that's really just you judging yourself.
so true.
Yeah. And so we have to shift away from that. Yeah. And that's been a big part of my journey too, especially coming from, my family of origin. That was like a really big part of the dynamic and the
Mm,
wounding. And I think so many of us have
mm,
that's like our default mode. That's
yeah.
just our default. We don't even know we're doing it. And so until we recognize what it is that we're judging, we're going to continue to attract the things that we judge
Mm.
into our life. I know. And so it's a big one to understand, and a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. This radical responsibility that we're doing it to ourselves. We're
Mm.
doing it to ourselves. And so part of my practice too, because you asked me like, how to get back into alignment. And,
Yeah.
number one is through the body, right? Number
Yeah.
one, always, always, always like just reconnect somatically
Mm.
and anchor yourself in your physical vessel,
Mm.
ground yourself, right? The other one is this responsibility. I'm choosing this.
I think a lot of people, I'm sure myself included many times, and I feel like I'm becoming more aware of it, but we fall into that victim mentality. But then when you go
Yes.
back to like personal responsibility, not only is it kind of like very confronting, but then it's also like, wow, like I have so much more power than I thought, and
Yeah.
this is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, so people ask me sometimes in conversations like this um, to talk about my spiritual awakening,
Mm,
because it was just such a powerful time for me. And what you just said reminds me of that so much, because it
mhm,
was literally one day waking up after being through a few years of this dark night of the soul and several different layers of trauma, um, and blaming everybody else for the trauma.
mhm,
And literally one day waking up after having lived in my head and blaming other people and replaying all of the events. And one day waking up and just recognizing that I can't blame anybody else. And it
mhm,
was work that I had been doing, deep, deep, deep work for several years: yoga, breath work, sound healing, meditation, fasting, time in nature, like solitude, reading, journaling, all the things that you're told to do. But I had been thick in it, like really doing the work, deep work. And then just there was this powerful shift one day where I woke up and just literally left victim consciousness. I
mhm,
literally left. So if there's anybody listening that feels like, well, I've been doing the work and it's not working, it can all shift in a day.
Yeah.
You literally can have this recognition and realization and profound awakening suddenly. And that's what happened to me.
That's so beautiful.
It's really powerful. Yeah.
I think, myself included, we're always like on this journey to get somewhere, right? Like, I don't know where I'm trying to get, but I'm trying to get somewhere.
Let's
So
be good to ourselves.
it's reassuring to hear that, like, well, not only is a path different for everyone, but then things can happen suddenly. And it's just like staying that course and continuing that journey of like discovering who you are. So, what would you recommend to anyone that maybe does feel like they're stuck in that situation? Like maybe they are doing habits that support them, or maybe they're not, and just feeling like they're not knowing where to go next or what to do next. What would you recommend for anyone that's just feeling stuck?
A lot of things.
Mm,
Trust the process,
mm,
hold the vision, trust the process. And I think holding the vision comes first on purpose, because you have to have a vision. So if you're focused on what you don't like about your circumstances, then how are you going to create a different experience? So it's about focusing, and this is one of the pieces of the Japa methodology, is
mm,
vision, is having a vision for the life that you want, for the experience that you want to have. And if you study the law of attraction, any of the greatest teachers, ancient or modern, they will all tell you that the way to create and experience that vision in your life, to manifest it, which is such an overused word these days, but to
mhm,
actually realize that experience, to create the life that you want, is not only to see it and believe it, deeply believe that you're worthy of it, but to also feel grateful for it now.
mm,
As it believe that it's already happened, have a deep sense of gnosis, of knowing at a vibrational level inside your body that it's yours.
mm,
All you have to do is claim it. It's yours. Really feeling into that, and then taking action and trusting the process. So for me, it's hold the vision, trust the process.
mm,
And I actually, inside of Japa Health, of course, we have suggestions on vision. There's 10 determinants of health within the Japa methodology. So you get suggestions across 10 different categories. One of them is vision, but I do a lot of work with like executives and senior leaders, influencers on vision. And I have a whole workshop and a whole like process
mhm,
for creating an intentional vision and then living your life to fulfill it.
mm,
Because that has been so important to me. That's how I was able to go from sick and bankrupt and alone to the CEO and founder of Japa Health, was actually having a vision and also being strong and healthy, because I overcame an autoimmune disease. And all of those things that I was able to overcome, and not that I'm perfect and don't still have challenges, because I do, but I know that that's the work of getting through them, because it's gotten me this far. Because I did feel stuck
mm.
for a while in my life. I felt really, really stuck. And having that vision, trusting the process, and then doing the work every single day, and it
I think
works.
I think that story is going to be so just inspirational to so many people, and just what they need to hear. Like, if I'm
I
in
hope
this
so.
place, I can get out, and like things can change so drastically, so fast. And you said one word that I like circled and boxed and underlined, and that is worthiness. I feel like that's the one that holds
I
us back
know.
too, is we feel
Yeah.
so unworthy. I don't know why. I mean, I guess maybe just the collective energy, like you mentioned before, but that's a big one for people, myself included, worthiness.
That one still is something that I have to check myself on a daily basis. I'll admit it, I mean,
Yeah.
I have no shame in admitting that. I think anybody that doesn't have a little bit of imposter syndrome or a little bit of self-doubt is like a sociopath. Like if you don't have that, then there's actually something wrong with you. I mean, that's just my belief. I could be wrong about that. And I think, there's a difference between confidence
Mm,
and being a sociopath, right? Like I'm incredibly confident, but I would be lying out of my face if I said that, worthiness and self-doubt didn't come up. And this little girl in me and the little girl in you and the little boy and somebody else, or, anyone who's listening, that is always in there. And there's different meditations that people can do. I've done them. They've been really helpful for me to visualize yourself as a child, like inner child meditation work,
Mm,
and to speak to your child self, and to like hold a vision for your child self in your mind's eye and get really clear on that vision. So it could be like you in your bedroom when you were a little kid, or like you on the playground, and really imagining what you were wearing, and if were you carrying a backpack or a lunchbox, or were you playing your favorite toys, or what was happening in that vision. Get really clear, and then speak to your child self and say the things to your child self that you wish you would have heard or needed to hear,
mm,
and then carry that vision. You can like imagine it, up in the air, and then carry that vision into your heart. And I've been doing work like that for years. I've been doing future self vision
mm,
work for years too. And those kinds of practices can really help you move past, and work with and recognize like the deeper layers of like, why am I in my own way? Like, what is it about, the little child in me that still feels small? And so just tapping into that version of you
mhm.
in whatever way that feels appropriate for you is going to be different for everyone, whether that's therapy or journaling or meditation. I love those vision exercises. They've been really powerful for me. But yeah, the worthiness piece, I think, is a really universal block for so many people. Yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you are
Mm,
deeply,
mhm.
like it's your birthright.
And we just forget all the time, like, it blows
Yeah,
my mind. And I think
yeah,
everyone took, like, a collective breath when you said, like, everyone feels that way, and if you don't, you're
yeah,
crazy. That's so
yeah.
true. I don't know anyone that doesn't have those thoughts or deal with that on some capacity or some level, and that's just so
Mhm.
reassuring. And I agree, like, inner child work, that's something that I've been feeling called to do recently, like, just letting her out more, letting her have fun, and I think that's so powerful. But it brings me back to something you talked about earlier, and I think this can also be, like, a overwhelming topic for people, or they just don't know where to start, but the big word of trauma. And I think a lot of
Mm,
that is connected to our childhood, or like you said, ancestral. Maybe it's just like inner genetics and we don't even
yeah.
realize it. How can we even start to like peel back the layers on that? Because that can be
Well, I
tough.
would say I would say the first thing from my experience is to accept that it is a process. There's no
Mm,
magic wand, right? There's no like quick fix. So once you settle into whatever that journey is going to look like for you, and you stop trying to force it, and you stop trying to rush it, and you stop trying to resist it, and you stop avoiding it,
yeah.
I think that's the first step.
Mm,
I really, really do. Is just taking that big exhale that like, okay, I have my shit. Everybody has their shit, and I'm going to work on it. And I'm going to give myself grace and be gentle with myself. And then
mm,
find that balance of being the best that I can for myself because I owe it to myself, but then also not beating myself up as I work on the things that have injured me, they've injured my psyche, or they've injured my spirit, or there's some amount of injury, right? In this life, we experience so many things that can be hurtful, so many things.
mm,
And I think just, yeah, just accepting that there's no magic wand and you are not alone. You are not alone. Like literally everybody has been hurt over and over and over again in big and small ways. And
mm,
it's part of this human experience.
mm,
And I'll say that like the reason that I believe we're here is to learn how to love,
mm,
which is the opposite of, the judgment and the self-loathing and the unworthiness. And it starts with yourself.
mm,
And all those things that happened to me, all of the shit things that happened to me that I wouldn't wish on anyone, I'm now grateful for,
mm.
because they taught me how to love myself, because it was either that or hate myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to stay in that place. yeah, I just didn't. And so it was like, okay, well, I can stay in this loop of, hating myself and hating my experience and blaming other people forever, or I can look at it all like it's a gift.
So, 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 so powerful. Like when we look at the shadows, the bad things, the trauma as it's happening for our growth.
Yes.
I just feel that on such a visceral level. It's so powerful. I was having this conversation with my friends the other day of like, I think sometimes it's so subconscious, you may not realize where like this belief came from, if it came from like your childhood or something traumatic that happened that maybe you don't remember. Do you think that's important to like remember the source or know the source? Or do you think just like being aware of, okay, I have this limiting belief on like worthiness that's holding me back. Is that enough? Because that's something I ponder a lot. I'm like, do I need to know where this came from? Or do I just need
Mm.
to know that it's here and I can choose differently?
I mean, I think the first step is just to know that it's there and to
Yeah.
question your own beliefs. And then how far you want to go with it, I think depends on whether or not it serves you.
Mm,
Like, does it serve you to investigate where it came from? Like, and
mm,
what will you do with that information if you discover it? And is it even correct? Or is that just another projection?
mm,
Like, does it serve you? Right. I think is the question. And again, that's going to be so individual. And some people may feel really comfortable just saying, I discovered this subconscious belief that I was holding, and I realized that it was holding me back. And I just chose to shift that. And that might be enough and perfectly healthy for somebody. Somebody else may be very curious about, God, why did I even think that in the first place?
mhm,
Where did that come from? And then maybe when they go there, they'll learn about other aspects of themselves that they didn't know, and that may serve them.
mm,
But it's so personal when you start to go on these journeys. And I'll also say, going back to the what would I tell people if they're feeling stuck. So this wasn't something that I learned until a little bit later. Um, but if I could go back and do it all over again, I would I would want to integrate laughter and humor
mm,
earlier and make it more of like an intentional practice. I'm very much able to do that now. Like when I'm dealing with something really, really difficult, like even right now, there's a lot of challenges going on in my life, like big ones. And I'm able to laugh. Like I'm able to be like, oh my God, this is this is hilarious. Like, this, wow, and so being able to look at that and like kind of remove yourself from the situation and objectively witness yourself going through it. Wow, how much like I'm taking this so seriously.
mhm,
And it is serious. I don't want to discount it because, these life experiences that we have are, so deeply personal, and they are so heavy to go through, and they affect us so much, and it affects our health and our work and our relationships and everything. So I don't want to say it's not serious, because it is, and should be taken seriously for the most part. But to have moments where you can just sit back and be like, well, you
mhm.
know, I don't have to stay in that seriousness 100% of the time. And I can just laugh at the ridiculousness of the human experience and just how ridiculous we all are, how crazy we all are.
Oh, I love that. I think that
That's
is
some,
such a fun way to look at life too. Like when something happens, just laugh if you can, if you have the space. Like I
and
do think
yeah,
laughter is so healing as well.
it really is. It
I've
really, I mean,
spent
there's even neuroscience and studies, that prove it, right? And it's,
mhm,
inviting that laughter and inviting joy in any way that you possibly can. I didn't do enough of that. It took me a little while to get into that space. So I would recommend that for people. The
mm,
faster you can get into that, the better.
yes, I agree. Allow more joy. That's a word I hear from my, I guess, intuition all the time is allow. Like allow yourself to laugh, allow yourself to have fun. And I agree, we don't have to take things so seriously. Like I spent, which maybe this wasn't the best use of my time, but I was like crying laughing at reels on Instagram the other day. Like I just got into this energy where they were so funny and I was laughing so hard I was crying. I was like, this is
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. It just feels so good to not only laugh, but even let those tears out because I was
Right,
laughing so
right.
hard.
Yeah, that's medicine. Like I really believe that that's
Uh-huh.
medicine, and so being able to hold space for laughter and joy and humor. And, like I said, this human experience is a crazy one.
Hmm.
So remembering that we all have some version of that and just laughing at how seriously we take it. I mean, we're all going to die,
Yeah.
this is all going to end. This is all going to end one day for all of us.
Yeah.
Right. And nothing stays the same forever. Like that's
Yeah.
one thing that we know for sure is that it's going to change and it's not going to last forever.
So true. That's the one certain thing, is that like
Yeah.
nothing lasts forever. So just
Oh,
laugh it off and go have fun. Go have more fun. I love that. Something I think about too when I get too caught up in like silly work things or whatever it may be. Something I've been pondering a lot lately is like the idea of, and maybe this is too much for people, but if we are in like a simulation of some kind, I don't know. That's a rabbit hole. We definitely don't have to go down it, but that serves me in not taking things so seriously. I'm like, okay, let's say I am in a simulation. This is a game. Like, if this is a
mhm.
game, why would I not be having more fun? You know?
That's right. That's exactly right. And if you're in a game, you have superpowers.
Yes. And
Yeah,
we just forget.
yes, yes. You have superpowers and there's keys to
Mm,
unlock new levels to the game.
mm, so good.
Mm.
That leads me
So
into another
yeah.
question for you. Do you feel like sometimes when people are kind of like going to the next level of maybe their spiritual awakening or whatever it may be, or awareness, does that come along with like health issues sometimes or not always?
1000%. Yeah. I mean, the thing about it is, and I actually just wrote a post on my Instagram yesterday about this, and it was a very short post, but it said, quantum leaps show up in the form of challenges,
Mm,
and your work is to answer the call to rise. So whether that's a physical challenge, like an injury or a mystery illness, right? Something that's plaguing the vessel, or whether that's a financial challenge or a relationship challenge, something that's causing you an experience of feeling small,
mm,
an experience of contraction, when you feel like you're holding your breath, right? Or you're clenching somewhere physically, right? You're not at ease, right? Whatever that is, and it can manifest in so many different ways. It's my belief and been my personal experience that that is the call. That is the call to awaken. That is the call to level up. And that there's something that you're not seeing. And this challenge is here to show you what that is.
mm. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I think I'm in the midst of that right now, personally.
I think I am too. I think I am too. And I mean, I've been through these layers many times. I'm 43 now. I've been through many layers of it. And what I've observed in my own life is that there's cycles. And as soon as you get a little too comfortable,
Mm,
or as soon as you play small or settle in any way, something, the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, higher self, will show up and give you a little kick in the ass to remind you. And if you don't
1000%.
pay attention, right? If you don't pay attention, then it'll kick you a little harder and then a little harder and then a little harder until you do. That's just my own belief and life experience. So I think we're all going through it, and there's the cycles. There's cycles for sure. So don't get too comfortable.
Yeah. It's like every time it's like, okay, here we go again.
I
Can I
know,
just
right?
relax?
No,
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 for
that's
a
not
little
what we
while.
came
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. For a little while. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. But if you're not growing, then you're dying, right? So
for
if you're
sure.
not evolving, then you're shrinking. So I think that we're just be forced to constantly evolve. And I think a lot of times we ask ourselves, like, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why again? Maybe that's just the way it is, and we have to
Hmm.
accept it.
Totally. Do you think that's connected to why we're here? Like just to evolve and to practice these things. And like you said, to learn how to love. That makes so
To
much
learn how
sense
to
to
love.
me.
Yeah. To learn how to love. Yeah. To remember that we are not separate, that we
Mm,
are all just a reflection of the same source. So everything that we see in other is really ourselves. So that when we see something that we judge or don't like, or something that we think displeases us, that's also us too. Yeah, I think all of these things have purpose. I think that the health stuff for me for sure had purpose.
Mm.
I mean, the autoimmune disease, the autoimmune. So autoimmune is when the body cannot distinguish self from non-self.
Mm.
If that's not a spiritual problem, I don't know what is.
Mm.
If
Wow.
you cannot distinguish self from non-self, that's what the immune system is supposed to do. Allow in what's good and nurturing and protect you from what's harmful and foreign. And it can no longer do that. It can no longer differentiate that.
Mm.
And there's like 50 million Americans with an autoimmune disease. Why is that?
It does seem like that's one of the most common ones. Does allergies, this just made me think, because allergies is something I've always dealt with. That's a form of autoimmune, right? Because it's like your immunity is not working. It's
Well,
recognizing things that shouldn't be harmful or
sure,
harmful.
sure. It's definitely part of the function of the immune system, but
Yeah.
with autoimmune, the immune
Okay.
system attacks and damages the body.
Wow.
Actually damages the tissues of the body, and it manifests in different organs and in different systems. So with me, the condition I have, which is super common, it's called Hashimoto's, is when the body attacks and damages the tissue of the thyroid gland.
Mm.
Right. So you're talking about the throat again. So you're talking about like, why are we having an energetic problem here?
Yeah.
Like, why is the throat center the focus of the immune system? Why is the immune system going in there and attacking the tissues? And, depending on who you ask, it can be argued that there's a number of different causes for this. I also believe myself that there's a complexity of triggers, and it's not just spiritual. Okay. It's for sure, there
Mm-hmm.
can be heavy metals, environmental toxins, parasites, all different reasons, infections, like all different reasons why improper nutrition, that the body could end up in this place that's obviously not its natural state.
Yeah.
Right. But I will argue, and it has been scientifically proven, that part of the immune apparatus is connected to the emotional apparatus.
Mm.
They're inseparable. So and Gabor Mate, who's a brilliant man who wrote a book called The Myth of Normal, talks a lot about this and does a beautiful, beautiful job synthesizing this message about how the immune system and the emotional system serve the same purpose: to keep out what's dangerous and to let in what's nurturing. So that's why you have boundaries.
Mm. Wow.
Right. And so I do believe, yes, I do believe that, immune system issues are affected and a part of our spiritual evolution as humans. And that's been a deep part of my work, is to understand my own shit in a way that my immune system doesn't attack itself anymore.
Yeah.
To get that confusion of who I really am cleared.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just talking about the specific thing that you just mentioned with someone. So that's divine
Right.
timing again, of just how broader these topics are than we're traditionally taught when it comes to health. Like you said, it's not just spiritual, it's not just emotion, it's
Well,
everything is
that's why I built
affecting.
this tech company,
Yes.
because it was so complicated for me to heal, that I thought, okay, so what are the forces that actually create health? And how do we measure those? And how do we create a life of balance around all those forces? And how do we educate ourselves in a way that we know what they are?
Yes.
We know what they are, we know how to do it, and we know why we need to do it and how often to do it. So the Japa methodology includes all of the things that you can see, like what's on your plate, the sleep data from your sleep tracker, how many steps you take, right? How much water you drink, like all of the things that are like material and affect the
Mhm.
vessel from a material way. And then there's all of the things that you can't see, like vision and relationships, that are
Mm.
part of the Japa methodology. So to me, and I've studied digital health and I've studied all of the companies that are out there and the offerings in terms of like apps and things that are available. And I really believe that the Japa methodology is the most holistic that can help people navigate this process of feeling in alignment with their truth, feeling healthy and strong in their body, right? Like having a vision, but then also having like healthy nutrition and healthy movement, and just creating that balance that's going to give us the life that, you know, we feel we seek so desperately. Like we're just like, when does that start?
Yeah, this is definitely a huge need. A huge need. I love that you created this because it does seem that way. Like when I focus all my attention maybe on like my emotional health or here, then I like forget to drink water, or like I'm
I
drinking
know,
enough
right?
water and then I forget to do that. So just like a good reminder to help us focus on all the things that affect our holistic self. So that is such a beautiful lead in to like the last few things I want to ask you. So if someone is listening and they're like, okay, I know I need to realign myself with my health and like get all the stuff in check, would you recommend them starting there at Japa Health with that assessment? Are there any other ways they can work with you, or any other things you offer? Where should they start, I guess?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking that. I do highly recommend the assessment. Japa Health is a startup.
Mhm,
We have a large vision for where the offering and the platform is going to go.
mm,
So there are a lot of features that it doesn't have yet, but I would welcome anybody to go. The assessment is right now free. It will not always be a free platform, but it is right now. And it just gives you up to 5 suggestions for each of the 10 determinants. So you get up to 50
mm,
suggestions and they're personalized for you. So yeah, go take the assessment. And even the questions themselves are very, very insightful, because it might be asking you to examine something that you hadn't even thought about in your life that can be contributing to some feeling of being stuck. Right. So the idea is to evaluate, where are you getting in your own way? Where are your blind spots? So you can do that. Yeah, if anybody wants to reach out and work with me, either one-on-one or in groups, they can do that. They can email me, Sheryl@japa.health. They can find my social handles. I love working with groups. I love working with people one-on-one. I love working in corporate environments. I've kind of done it all. And I've led a lot of really awesome retreats. Japa's offered a few retreats that have been really powerful. I did 2 this year just on vision that were really, really rewarding. I think honestly, it was some of my best work. So if anybody's interested in like hosting or inviting me in to offer a vision workshop, you know, corporate wise, or a group of friends, those kinds of things are so powerful and so fun. And I just absolutely love doing it. I also teach yoga.
mm.
It's something that makes me feel the most alive. It makes me feel like the most in my own meditative flow, even more so than practicing these days. Teaching just warms my heart so much. I don't have any classes publicly right now, but I do often teach in South Orange County, weekly classes. If you want to get on my newsletter, you can go to the Japa website. There's somewhere on the website, I forget exactly where, that you can put your email and
Mm.
sign up. Oh, yeah, and or yeah, just email me, Sheryl@japa.health, if you want to stay up to date on my offerings and what's happening with Japa, ways to learn more about this lifestyle and these practices and how to stay in alignment. That's what we
Yeah.
share.
We'll link all the things, and everyone go and take that assessment right now. What a beautiful free resource. And then just go from there. And if they feel called to, I know you have such beautiful radiant energy that I think a lot of people are going to be very called to go do these other things too. And yes, yoga, I feel like it's
Yoga.
such a beautiful portal for so many people. Like it just makes you feel so good. And that is I've seen it be such a stepping stone for people into this world, into this realm of like self-discovery and spirituality and all that. So
Oh, it's the
love all
best
the things.
medicine for me. And I have to say this for anybody listening that's like rolling their eyes at yoga. I don't know if your audience would, but anybody that hesitates or feels like they haven't had a good experience or just has some preconceived notion about what it is, keep trying it. Try different teachers, try different
Yes.
modalities, try different environments. Maybe a hot room is good for you. Maybe a hot room is not good for you. There's so many different ways to practice. There's like a flow practice where you're moving through each posture, breath to movement. There's longer holds where you're able to sit in each posture for up to a minute or so and really feel into the benefits of the posture. There's so many different ways to practice. There's so many different styles of teaching and different kinds of teachers out there that I think that there really is some form of yoga for everyone. So my advice to people is always like, just keep trying until you find what works for you, because it's such powerful medicine. It really is.
Agreed. There are so many different ways to practice, or just even on YouTube, like, or just the internet search.
Totally.
And there's so many resources. I love that advice. Just keep trying until you find one that fits
Yeah,
you.
just keep trying. Yeah, yeah. And yoga is not all about stretching, and it's,
No.
it's a deeper philosophical practice that involves the wisdom of ancient philosophy from thousands of years ago, and posture and breath are only two
Yes.
of the tenets. They're only two of the main tenets out of eight. So there's so much wisdom and value in understanding the full scope of yoga philosophy. So I always recommend people study yoga philosophy as part of their evolution. It's
Yes.
so good. It's so good.
So good. I also did a yoga teacher training just because I was like, this feels like the most fun thing and I want to learn more. And that blew my mind how that is such a small part of the practice, is well, not a small part, but just like a portion of the the whole deal. Like you said, two of the eight limbs are the breathing and the
Yeah.
postures, and there's so much more
Right.
to it. It's
Right.
really
Right.
mind
Yeah.
blowing.
And I think when people really understand the path of practice, which are the eight limbs, and then when you compare that to what we hear in the mainstream in the West about meditation, you can quickly recognize why so many people fail at meditation. Because the path of yoga practice, the ancient path, was actually designed to prepare you for meditation. Because the ancient mystics and the wisdom of the ancient yogis, they knew that meditating was hard. And they knew that you had to prepare the mind and body to actually sit and be still and be quiet. So this is, I think for those people that have failed at meditation, another way to explore what that can be, because it's not easy to just sit down and drop into a different frequency of your brainwaves. Like, how do you do that? How do you actually shift the frequency of your brainwaves? Well, yoga can help you get there. So explore,
Mm.
explore, study, study, study. Don't
Mm.
give up.
Such a good reminder. Yes, yes. Yoga helps you like get all the like wiggles out before you sit down and meditate.
Totally. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
uh, my last two questions for you are just kind of fun ones. And I love to ask people this, but what is your favorite, I call it alignment activity recently? And that's just something that you just enjoy doing because you love it so much, and time and space seem to drift away. So it can be anything.
Other than teaching, sunrise and sunset walks.
Yes. Yes.
There's just like the window between worlds at that time, and so mystical and magical, and just reminds me of my place in the universe and the enormity of things, and perspective shift, because we look down so much in our lives, and the ability to look up at the sky, just look up at the big picture and take it all in. For me, doing that daily, love it.
So wise. And it makes me think like we probably are designed to get up with the sun and down with
Yes, of
the,
course.
we're meant to see those and acknowledge those and be aware of those every single day. And there is nothing like, I'm sure in Southern California too, the
Oh,
sunset.
the magic. Yeah, the absolute magic. And then, that of course just feels good. But then when you start to layer on like the circadian rhythm benefits to all of
Mm.
your neurotransmitters and your physical health and all of the things that the sun does for you, especially that spectrum of light at that time of day when you get the red, right? In the morning and in the evening when it's rising and setting. Yeah, it's like if you can dial in that ritual where that's part of how you begin and end your day. I set my whole schedule around it.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. I
yeah.
I never thought of that different spectrum of light that you're getting at that time, but that makes sense.
It really is very, very important. And especially these days, like you and I are on a Zoom right now. And we're getting all this artificial light, and the frequencies of light from the devices are not natural for our eyes. It's not natural for our brain, and our brains interpret it in all these different ways that screw us up and cause anxiety and affect our sleep and actually affect our metabolism. Like blue light actually affects your blood sugar levels. It's a crazy thing, right? So really, I'm starting to dig into, and this is more of what we do at Japa Health, is quantum biology, right? Quantum biology. So that's all about light and even your own thoughts, right? Because your thoughts carry frequency and energy, and how your cells respond to that energy. I know. I see the look on your face, like you're just mind blown, like it's so much, but it's not, you don't have to know all of those things.
Yeah.
You don't have to know that it's a quantum practice, and that,
Yeah.
the photons and the neutrinos from the sun are coming into contact with the eye, and how that's affecting, your brain and your neurochemicals. You don't need to even know that, but just know that having some kind of ritual that brings you into contact with the cycles of nature is healthy. And that's my favorite way to do it. Just to go walk.
Yeah.
Walk.
I'm going to do a sunset walk tonight. I've not been prioritizing that. And something in my soul gets so happy when we do connect science and spirituality, because it's just like, yes, I knew that was good for me. And now
Right?
science is saying yes.
Yeah, just don't wear sunglasses.
Oh, that is something I've heard
Don't wear
recently too. Yeah.
don't wear sunglasses. Yeah, don't block that beautiful light in your eyes. Yeah. I mean, I don't recommend staring at the sun in the middle of the day or anything like that, but if you're going at sunset, allow that beautiful light to penetrate into your system. It's magic.
Such a good reminder. I'm guilty of that one. I have too many sunglasses. Last question.
I get it. They're cute.
I know they are so cute. And then, trying to prevent all the things. And yeah, but that's a good reminder. So last question, if you had to give anyone listening just one piece of advice, I know that's tricky sometimes, what would be your one piece of advice?
Don't settle.
Mic drop. That doesn't even need explanation.
Yeah, it can be also translated as don't play small. Whichever way, whatever words you want to use.
Yeah, I feel like maybe this is just for me too. That's the cause of a lot of blocks in our energy centers, is playing small and settling. Our body's like, no, don't stay here, keep growing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're designed for more.
Beautiful.
And deep down, you know it. Deep down, you know it. And that's why you feel frustrated.
Yeah. Full body chills. Such a beautiful way to end that. Thank you so much, Sheryl. This was such a beautiful conversation. I'm just so grateful for your energy and for taking time to come on here and talk to everyone. I know this is going to be a good episode for so many people.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Sheryl, again, thank you so much for coming on Alignment Adventures. I know so many people are going to find this conversation very resonant and very helpful to them on their alignment journey. Now, if you want to connect with Sheryl on social media, on Instagram, I know I'm following along with her and I love her daily inspiration. It's Sheryl, SHERYL Utal, UTAL. So you can go there and she's linked to her company, Japa Health, and go and take that self-assessment like we talked about in the episode and I talked about in the intro. It's free and such a beautiful place to start. If you want to work on your vitality, if you want to see a holistic picture to your alignment, to your health, you can also go to japa.health and I will link all of that in the show notes. Please subscribe if you are new here. We have new episodes pretty much every Monday. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more sporadic now since I'm living nomadically. So the frequency and the day of the week may vary, but usually we have new episodes on Mondays. Sometimes it is interviews like the beautiful interview we had in this episode. And sometimes it's just a solo episode of me coming to you and sharing my heart and sharing my own alignment journey. But we're always focused on living a more present, fulfilling, and aligning life. I'm sending you all so much love, all the joy, all the fun, all the laughter, all the vitality, and of course, I will see you in the next episode of Alignment Adventures.